The main character, Amamiya Hirota, suddenly realizes that his life has come to an end. Amamiya Hirota, student of high school, realizes that he and his classmates have become victims. A terrorist attack. None of them survived. All of his classmates are panicking, trying to comprehend what happened, and the main character saves the last minutes of his life when he tried to save her, but in the end, they all died. Trying to understand what happened. All of a sudden, the classmates notice a deity that never leaves the white light and tells the students that they are dead and will now be reborn in a new world in which you can be who they always dreamed of becoming. But before that, the students are transported to another world. The deity grants with power. The deity looks at the student, and two spheres appear in his hands, which will become his personal power in his new life, one after another. The disciples approach the deity to be transported to another world with new power. At this time, the main character realizes that this process will take a long time, decides to sit down, and recalls the life he is leaving behind. He must say goodbye, when suddenly, the deity calls out to him. He approaches him without expecting what awaits him ahead. Elves, orcs, ghouls. He even has time to sleep with 4 girls. But then there was a setback for the main character, which consists in the fact that the deity accidentally made a mistake and gave it to a stranger who looked exactly like the main character. All of Amamiya's power and look. And to compensate his mistake, God will not give him any special abilities like his classmates, but he will have enormous magical power, which he will not be able to use, because he will end up in that world where none of the magical elements will obey him. Enormous magical power and a complete inability to use it. What is going on? Why should the main character live then? He dreamed of a completely different life, for example, a warm bed with elves. And then Hirota disappears for good. A moment later, he finds himself back in his own body, but several years younger. A stern man in uniform stands before him. He declares that the hero brought this on himself by deciding to resist, and orders him to think things over. Then he turns around and announces, the next experiment is in 30 minutes. Hirota must prepare himself. Exhausted, sprawled on the cold floor, the hero finally remembers everything, how his life ended that day. Life ended. It was the shipwreck and the stupid mistake of the damned god. That's why he was thrown into this world. Because of the god's mistake, he now lies here and endures this torture. The world to which Hrothgar sent everyone from that ship is called Origin. It resembles Earth in some ways, but science and magic are bizarrely intertwined there. The hero was born to a woman of easy virtue. Shortly after his birth, his drunkard father sold him for money as a living research subject. Therefore, Hirota has no memory of his parents' faces. It was acquired by a research organization involved in numerous illegal experiments. Within the walls of this organization, 2 scientists discuss the test results. They are negative, but one of them stands out from the general picture. We are talking about test subject D01. Its level of magical compatibility is negligible, and no talent for magic has been detected. Every person in this world possesses one of 7 elements: earth, fire, water, wind, light, life, and space. This subject's body does not respond to any of them. He does not even have a hint of predisposition. One of the researchers concludes that they are dealing with a complete non-entity, even worse than an ordinary person. Continuing to waste resources on such a subject is pointless. Another scientist agrees. Bad material must be discarded. But there is one point that deserves close attention. It turns out that this child has one advantage that surpasses all others. His body contains a colossal source of magic. And although this is only the researcher's personal hypothesis, there is a possibility that the element inherent in the hero has simply not yet been discovered and does not have a name. Somewhere in the depths of the laboratory, the hero stands in front of a dead rat. Reaching out to it, he suddenly envelops it in black, swirling energy. The rat's eyes fill with life, and it suddenly rises, as if returning from oblivion. The scientist is delighted. However, the rat is not truly alive. Its body ceased to function long ago, which means that this is not life-giving magic, but something else. Magic capable of controlling dead flesh. The scientists rejoice. The element has finally been discovered. The legend turned out to be true. It exists. Excited researchers declare that the element that commands the dead can only be called by one word: death. They turn to the hero and tell him that he should cheer up, because he is the first death mage in the entire known world. Time has passed since then. Hirota sits alone in a dark laboratory chamber. A scientist looks in on him and calls him over for a talk. The boy finds himself in front of the chief researcher's desk. During the conversation, he is promised freedom, on the condition that he demonstrates consistent results in working with death magic. A few days later, the hero stands among the bookshelves and, using his dark energy, assembles something resembling a human figure from scattered volumes. The scientists whisper among themselves, noting with satisfaction that D01 believed all the conditions without a single doubt. Now, he puts much more effort into creating new spells, but the longer this little boy interacts with the magic of death, the more dangerous he becomes. The scientists conclude that in case of an unexpected rebellion, it is necessary to install explosive devices, as well as hidden tracking devices. Recording devices will track his every move, eliminating any possibility of escape. The hero's right eye has been replaced with an artificial one equipped with a built-in camera. In addition, camouflage recording devices are installed inside his ears and mouth. No matter how quiet his voice is, scientists will hear every word. The amount of food consumed by the child is minimized to avoid the development of abnormal physical abilities. In addition, he is not allowed to leave the chamber except during experiments. The chief researcher objects. The risk remains because the boy is still able to use magic at will. This problem must be eliminated. Hirota and the scientist find themselves in a room filled to capacity with laboratory equipment. He is confused. Are they really not going to continue developing the new spell? The researcher replies that they must first examine his body. They just need to make sure that the element of death does not cause any abnormal reactions in him. After all, this is a completely new, unknown element. The boy still does not fully understand what is happening and obediently lies down on the couch. Suddenly, his arms, legs, and body are restrained by metal clamps. Hirota is overcome with animal fear. Surgeons appear in the room. They slowly approach him. The hero, with horror and tears in his eyes, notices the needle hanging over him, and his scream breaks the silence. The room. A moment later, the hero comes to his senses. He sits in the middle of the room with his head bandaged and has no idea what happened to him. The same scientist offers him something to eat. Hirota understands internally that he cannot speak or even move his own body. Could this be some form of anesthesia? But he can still clearly feel his own body. The chief researcher comes in to see the scientist. The scientist reports that the operation was a success. The subject's ability to control his body and magic has been completely disrupted. From now on, he cannot move a single finger, let alone use magic. Now, complete control is in the hands of the researchers. The development of magic will continue without any interference. The chief is satisfied. It is a bitter irony. The death mage, capable of commanding the undead, remains alive himself, but has been turned into a puppet in the hands of others. Hirota hears every word. He is shocked, but there is nothing he can do. His body does not obey him. Is his existence now nothing more than an endless conveyor belt of experiments until his death? The hero feels his consciousness and clearly senses every cell in his body. Despair overwhelms him from within, although his face remains stony. He does not want to exist like this. He cannot bear it. In a silent plea, he cries out to anyone who can help him. The scientist sits opposite Hirota, grinning as he tries to feed him. 10 years have passed since then. The scientist leads a new employee into the cell. The hero is still sitting there, 10 years older. His body is emaciated to the extreme. The scientist leaves, leaving the young researcher alone with the hero. The latter anticipates that he will finally be able to uncover the secret of this type of magic, which no one has ever seen before. The exhausted Hirota sees not only the scientist in front of him, two female silhouettes and a dog, resembling ghosts, are hovering next to him. He rejoices that they have come to him again. One of them expresses hope that perhaps the new researcher will treat Hirota better. But the girls have no idea how rotten these people can be. They did unbearable things to him. The souls cannot help him directly, but they promise to figure out how to get out of here. Hirota asks them not to worry. Just talking to them is enough for him. The spirit girls are happy to be of some use to him. For some mysterious reason, they still cannot reincarnate. The guy suggests that perhaps it is his death magic that allows him to see spirits. One of the girls says that there are many other souls wandering around the laboratory. They all gravitate toward Hirota and want him to escape to freedom as soon as possible. Suddenly, moments from his past life come flooding back to the hero, when they were all just ordinary schoolchildren. He wonders how Narumi and the others are doing now. If the kids had received power from God, they could have pulled him out of here long ago, but no one ever. After a month, the young researchers still cannot achieve any clear results. If this continues, he may be fired. The disappointed scientist takes his anger out on Hirota and hits him in the face with fury. The hero falls to the floor. Pain pierces him through and through. The spirit girls are boiling with indignation. The scientist, embarking on another experiment, wants to remove the restrictions on the hero's magic in order to squeeze out its full power. The boy's body is once again exposed to powerful energy. The pain is unbearable. The spirits try to stop the scientist, but they are powerless to do anything. Suddenly, the researcher notices that the test subject's magical power continues to grow. It's unbelievable. His magic exceeds that of the world's most powerful mage 10,000 times over. However, Hirota's body can no longer withstand it. Blood oozes from the corners of his lips. The scientist panics. Is the subject now dead? What will happen to his research? One of the indicators on the computer screen shows that although the hero's body has ceased to function, his magical power continues to grow steadily. The young researcher rejoices. He has finally achieved the result he's been striving for. Hirota's eyes suddenly fill with darkness, and he regains control of his own body. He grabs the scientist by the throat and kills him. The hero has finally regained control of his body. He moves through the laboratory, destroying everyone who gets in his way. Memories of all the cruelty inflicted upon him come flooding back, and the thirst for revenge burns in his chest with every step. No one can stop him. One of the researchers in his path notes with admiring horror, once the boy's body ceased to function, his soul broke free and took full possession of magical power. He turned into an undead creature. Hirota kills this scientist too. Further along the way, he encounters the surgeons, the very ones who once deprived his body of mobility. Using his magic, he lifts all the instruments in the laboratory into the air and mercilessly deals with them. Moving on, he also deals with the guards. Power fills the hero's body. It seems to be bursting out, looking for a way out. For the first time in many years, he uses magic to its fullest extent of his own will. Hirota notices a door. Behind it is a spacious room with people lying motionless on beds. Apparently, the researchers couldn't kill him, and at the same time tried to create another magician, Death. All. One of them are also deprived of control over their own bodies. But the touch of Hirota's power restores this ability to them. The hero invites them to follow him if they want to get out of there. He goes outside, and the light of the street floods his eyes. But with him is a whole crowd of his former classmates in uniform and with weapons in their hands. The hero is deeply moved. They have come for him after all. He always believed that one day they would meet again. However, one of them gives the command to be ready, and the whole squad raises their weapons and opens fire on the hero. Hirota doesn't understand why they are doing this. Have they completely forgotten that they once studied together in the same class? The hero loses parts of his body and falls to the ground, bleeding profusely. His classmates are surprised. It all ended too quickly. They were told that a powerful undead creature had appeared in the laboratory. Nevertheless, they dealt with him without using even half of their strength. One of the girls explains that the creature weakened its defenses, which is why victory came so easily to them. Suddenly, Hirota Amamiya appears among the group, also dressed in uniform. He says that the least they can do to complete this experiment is to destroy it. From that moment on, it will no longer feel any pain. The hero is overcome with rage. Why is Amamiya here? He is the one who took everything that should have belonged to Hirota, and now he stands here like a hero. From now on, Hirota hates them all. He will never be able to forgive any of them. The squad points their weapons at him again, and the hero disappears. Hirota finds himself before God again. As Rothkard had predicted, the boy didn't last long. The hero lunges at God with his fists, but his blows pass right through him, as if he were made of air. Hirota is furious. His second life turned out to be even worse than the first, and it's all God's fault. God agrees. He treated him terribly. But now, in his next life, the hero will be able to be happy. The hero is surprised. So it turns out he's getting a third chance? God confirms it. This new world is called Lambda. Hirota notes with grim enthusiasm that he will be the first to be reborn there. He will finally be able to get to everyone and take revenge. He demands abilities from God. This time, there must be no mistakes. However, God is unable to grant him any power and has no right to allow him to kill his classmates. Compared to the other world for which God is responsible, Lambda is far behind in its development. He gives Hirota the opportunity to build this world with his own hands and use all the horror of his life and origin as experience and training. The boy is furious. It wasn't just tempering, it was pure hell. God expresses his gratitude to the hero for his contribution to the discovery of a new element of magic that gave impetus to the development of origin, and asks him to forgive him for the unfortunate second life that befell him. The hero cannot forgive God. The curse that Hrothgar will place on the hero cannot be lifted. He expresses his hope that Hirota will renounce revenge and choose a different path in his next life. God promises to relieve him of the pain that will come when he reaches his fourth life. After that, Hirota will be able to return to the normal cycle of rebirth. Suddenly, he dissolves into the void again and appears in a new world. Before him stands a beautiful dark-skinned girl with long pointed ears resembling those of an elf. She smiles. The girl addresses him as Wendell and says that sometimes it's okay to cry. Hirota finds himself in the body of a small child. He has the same long ears. So, Amamiya Hirota is reborn in Lambda, bearing a curse. The hero is trapped in the body of an infant. A beautiful girl with a soft figure picks him up and says it's time to eat. The elf is busy in the kitchen, preparing food. Watching her, Hirota realizes that he has become a baby and this beautiful woman is his mother. In this world, his name is Vendalu. Hirota thinks it sounds pretty good, especially compared to his past life, where he only had a lab code instead of a name. His mother picks him up and smiles, suggesting that the baby is confused by the difference in skin color between them. She considers him very quick-witted, since he notices such things at such a young age. The woman explains that he inherited this skin tone from his father, but he is still her child, Darcia's child. The hero delves into fragments of memories from past lives and realizes that there is a race in this world similar to humans, elves. Darcia belongs to the Dark Elves. Vendel wonders who his father is. The woman gently pats the baby on the back and lulls him to sleep. After a while, he sits up on his own, and his mother praises him for it. The hero notices that his mother considers him smarter than ordinary children and does not reject this strange boy at all. The woman says that this is exactly what she expected from her father's child. The boy is overcome with curiosity. What could his father be like? After all, he had no father in his past life or the one before that. Praise is a novelty for him, and it fills him with an unfamiliar warmth. The hero wants to be praised even more, so he starts crawling, trying to attract his mother's attention. Darcia is delighted with his efforts, but notices that it is too early for him to crawl. The baby falls. She becomes curious about what the baby's status looks like. The hero is confused. What is this status anyway? After all, this is real life, not a game. However, a real status screen suddenly appears in front of him. What kind of world is this? The boy decides to explore it. It turns out that he is a Dhampir, a vampire half-breed. This means that his father is most likely a vampire. He notices that the house looks strange. In fact, it is a cave. No outsider has entered here since birth. The boy comes to the conclusion that, as a child with vampire blood in his veins, he automatically becomes a target. That is why his mother decided to hide him and protect him from the outside world. Most likely, his father is no longer alive. Continuing to study his status, he sees a number of 1 billion in the mana column. The number is so huge that it goes beyond the boundaries of the screen. The hero suddenly realizes that when God spoke of compensation, he meant this incredible indicator of magical power. The hero tries to use death magic, but it doesn't work. Either he is still too young, or he will have to find a different type of magic in Lambda. On the status screen, the boy discovers a list of his curses. He cannot restore experience points from his past life, cannot master any skills, cannot accumulate experience points, and even after realizing what magic is, he is unable to use it. Nevertheless, he has no intention of sitting idly by. There are other ways to learn magic. His thoughts are interrupted by the rumbling of his hungry stomach. Darcia notices that the baby is hungry and is about to feed him. The hero is embarrassed. If he were a teenager, as before, this would make him tense up. But now he has a child's body, which means his reactions will be different. And yet, for the adult consciousness trapped in this body, breastfeeding is a real challenge. Darcia doesn't understand why the baby is being fussy and refusing milk. Does he really dislike it that much? Wendell shakes his head furiously. No, on the contrary, it's delicious. In the end, he realizes that there is no choice and resigns himself to it. His mother notices that the boy's fangs are starting to come in. Although she doesn't think it's quite right, she still takes out the rabbit she shot, cuts off its head, and drains the blood into a bowl. She hands it to her baby. The hero thinks, it is strange to feed children animal blood. Darcia looks at him with a sad expression, and the baby gives in and tries it. It turns out, it tastes delicious. The baby happily continues to drink, despite the sharp metallic smell. Darcia explains that since he is the spitting image of his father, blood is a complete food for him, but it is not necessary to drink it every day. Therefore, she makes the child promise to drink blood only in her presence, even if he is hungry. The boy realizes that Dhampirs are not welcome in human society, which is why his mother is so worried about him. Instead of dealing with such a difficult child, she could have simply gotten rid of him, but she never did so and never even considered it. While cleaning, Darcia can't concentrate. She is distracted by a swarm of gnats buzzing around her. Suddenly, the hero reaches out and releases a dark energy. The gnats fall dead. A new skill appears on the status screen, elimination of microorganisms. Darcia is amazed. The child is already using magic at such a young age. The boy realizes that the magic of death works in this world too. Even though it's a familiar spell, the feeling is completely different. Everything he learned in his past life is having an effect. For him, praise from his mother is the highest reward, filling him with pride. And yet, happiness alone is not enough for the hero. The images of his classmates from his past life haunt him. His thirst for revenge has not faded, which means he needs to become stronger. Darcia sleeps in the hero's arms, while he reflects on this world. God deliberately sent him to Lambda, making it more developed. The hero thinks. So it is fair that he is allowed to do everything at his own discretion, even despite his desire to kill his reincarnated classmates. And yet, as soon as he finds a way to lift the curse and begins to survive on his own, God will throw the rest into this world again and destroy it. The struggle is pointless. Darcia suddenly wakes up and starts squeezing and tickling the baby, testing how long he can hold out. The woman says that he never shows any emotion. The boy thinks, since his appearance in this world, he has indeed never expressed anything with his face. Could this be part of the curse? Darcia says she sincerely loves him, although he doesn't seem to feel it yet. After a while, Darcia carefully opens the front door and carries the boy out into the light. The hero reaches out his hand toward the sun's rays, and nothing happens. Darcia rejoices with relief. He does not have a vampire's weakness to light. The hero becomes convinced that his vampire father is apparently immune to the sun's rays, which means that he has more than just vampire blood running through his veins. Nevertheless, vampires in this world are still targets for everyone. And if that's the case, when bad times come, there may be no one left to stand by his mother's side. Darcia, with Wendell in her arms, suggests going outside for some fresh air. Somewhere in the depths of his consciousness, little Hirota seems to be sitting in the darkness of that old laboratory chamber, and suddenly sees a completely different picture in front of him. A glade bathed in light among the trees. Sunbeams shine through the canopy, birds sing, butterflies flutter, and a light breeze blows. Darcia says that the weather is truly wonderful today. All this overwhelms Wendell, and he cries with happiness. The woman notices this, smiles warmly, and says that everything will be fine. One day, he will be able to return to the settlement of Turk, the homeland of the Dark Elves, where Darcia comes from, and finally find true freedom. The boy cries and thinks about how much he loves her. Never before has he wanted to say such words, but the curse prevents him from expressing it, neither with his face nor his voice. And this silence turns out to be more painful than he could have imagined. The hero thinks, as long as his mother is with him, she will be in danger. When he learns to speak, he will tell her everything. Even if it means she has to stay away from him, there is no other way. And yet, if he manages to live such a happy life with his mother until the very end, he doesn't need a fourth life. The hero remembers the god's promise to erase his memory and return him to the normal cycle of rebirth. He refuses to die. He doesn't want a fourth life. He just wants to live with his mother until the end of this one. One day, Darcia tells the boy that she needs to leave for a short while. She kisses him on the forehead and asks him to be a good boy and wait for her. The woman with a bow and quiver on her back walks out the door and the baby immediately starts crawling after her. The hero reflects. Sometimes she would secretly go to the nearest village, as she is doing now. She would buy everything necessary for everyday life, preparing for a long journey. While she was gone, the hero practiced his magical skills, but only one remained available, the elimination of microorganisms. However, one day, no matter how long he waited, his mother did not return. The hero lies alone on the bed. Waking up, he crawled to the door again, but his mother was not there. The hero realizes that he must go look for her, even though it is dangerous. On the other hand, if Darcia does not return, he may die of hunger. Besides, he has a bad feeling about it. If he wants to go out, he must first prepare himself. Noticing a dead rabbit in the house, the boy casts dark magic on it, and the animal comes back to life. The hero caught the rabbit's soul, which was hovering nearby, and put it into the corpse, creating an undead creature. But making corpses move is all he is capable of at his current level. Wendell decides that one rabbit is not enough and revives all the objects in the house: the bed, chairs, dishes. 4. The boy. It is a hilarious sight. But it is serious business. He drinks the blood of the second rabbit and turns it into an undead creature as well. As a result, the little hero races through the forest on a bed carried by skeletons. The revived objects fly through the air behind him. The hero thinks. The task turned out to be more difficult than he had expected. A single undead creature is too weak. Even an ordinary peasant with a hoe could smash it to pieces. But with such a terrifying army behind him, he has nothing to fear from wild animals. A fly lands on his hand and tells him how to get to the city. It's far. The hero has to speed up. Finally, they arrive at the gates of the fortress surrounding the city. But if he brings all these undead creatures to the gates, it will cause unwanted commotion. He orders everyone to stay outside and wait for a signal, except for one skeleton, who will carry him inside. Wendell mentally calls his skeleton a bone monkey, just a pile of bare bones, not a servant. Approaching the wall, the boy reasons. If his magic controls the undead and dead flesh, then theoretically, he can put a living soul even into an ordinary brick. He sends a magical command to the bricks in the wall, and they move apart, opening a passage. The hero calmly rides his skeleton inside. He chooses the most deserted alleys to move around the city. He sends insects ahead to gather information about his missing mother. Suddenly, the hero notices a human soul. Usually, spirits disappear after death, but this one seems to still have memories. He asks her, has she seen a long-haired, fair-haired, dark elf? The soul replies, she is in the town square. The boy directs the skeleton in that direction. In the center of the square, by a large fountain, Wendell spots Darcia standing and looking at the water. The kid rejoices. It's her. He calls out to her, and when the woman turns around, he realizes that she has also become a spirit. Her clothes are torn, her body covered with cuts and burns. She confesses that she failed. She is very sorry. The hero cannot understand how this was possible. She apologizes for not telling him. She tried to find him a place in the elven village. But the church found out about her appearance in the city. They surrounded her and killed her right on the street. Darcia begs the child to run. She explains, one of his eyes is ruby-colored from his father, and the other is violet from his mother. Anyone who looks at him will immediately understand that they are looking at a Dhampir. The hero says he will not run away and demands to know who killed her. She resists, but then the boy uses death magic on her, ordering her to answer. She obeys. In the city, she was ambushed by Baronet Best's men and priests of the church. She was deliberately pursued. She fought back with her bow, striking blow after blow. But suddenly, some heroes appeared, calling themselves the Rainbow Sword. One of them challenged her to a duel. The woman fought with all her might, but in the end, she was captured by the church. She was tortured and whipped, called a wicked witch, and demanded to reveal where her child was. She remained silent, and then her tormentor took up a red-hot iron. Her pain was unbearable, but she didn't utter a word. When the church realized that interrogation was useless, they tied her to a stake in the center of the square and burned her alive. Shocked by this story, the hero suddenly gains a new skill: sentimental corruption. He realizes that everything happened because of him. If he had been stronger, he could have saved her. Tears well up in the hero's eyes. His sentimental corruption skill has risen to the second level. A swarm of beetles flies up to him, relaying other people's conversations. With the help of insects, the hero can eavesdrop on people from a distance. He hears an aristocrat talking to a servant somewhere in the palace. The aristocrat reasons that, even if it wasn't the vampire himself, but only his girlfriend, that's enough to get a reward. The main thing is that he managed to attract the attention of the church. The servant replies that the aristocrat may soon be elevated to the rank of baron. The aristocrat smiles smugly. The hero's skill has risen to level 3. Somewhere in the church, priests are discussing the hunt for the Dhampir. One of them says, "He's just a child. Can't they just turn a blind eye to him? He has been separated from his mother for more than 3 days. Most likely, he will die of hunger on his own." But his speech is interrupted by the high priest, a strong man in armor. He orders them not to let their guard down. The child carries vampire blood. It is unknown what abilities he may have inherited from his father. It would be fine if his father were just a servant, but what if he were a pureblood? The church cannot rely on the power of the rainbow sword forever. The high priest does not believe that they have any desire to continue working with the church. They are different. The church follows judgment and fate. Turning to the priests, he orders them to find hunters in the city, and to the baronet, to send his people. The skill of sentimental corruption has risen to level 4. Somewhere, the members of the Rainbow Sword are having dinner. They discuss a dark elf woman who wielded both a bow and magic. She was a serious threat. And yet, no one of Class D can defeat them. Heine, the leader of Rainbow Sword, sits with a dull look in his eyes. The hero feels sorry for this woman and tries to cheer him up. Since one of the girls tries to snap Heine out of his stupor, she says that it doesn't matter whether the dark elf was seduced by a vampire or sought immortality herself. She got what she deserved. Their leader accepted this order himself. Heine received a letter personally from the baronet. Nothing could be changed now. Isn't that the hero's skill has increased? Somewhere, 3 men raise their cups to the baronet and the high priest. One of the man laughs. Him, of course. They are so proud that Orbi is their partner. When he confessed his feelings to that dark elf, she rejected him, and he went hunting to pursue her. Orbi orders him to shut up. He just needed to make sure she was the witch they were looking for. The man persists. It was a shame to burn such a beauty. Besides, they got nothing out of it. No profit from the upcoming hunt for the Dhampir, while the knights bustled around them. At least they got a few coins for escorting her, and for that they are grateful. Orbi says they'll get rich again, because they will be the ones to catch this Dhampir child. 2. Others are surprised. Does Orbi already know where the child is? A smart move. They will be able to sell him to the church, magicians, or slave traders. Whoever offers the best price will take him. The skill has risen to level 6. The hero can still hear the conversations of these 3. They say that if the child turns out to be problematic, they will burn him just like they burned the witch. At the same time, fragments of other conversations reach his ears. Someone says that they won't be able to sleep at night. If the child finds out what they did to his mother, he will come back for revenge. Damn that witch, she's nothing but trouble. Someone needs to deal with this little vampire quickly. The hero's skill has risen to level 7. The hero is seething with rage. This world is just as cruel as the previous ones. He thinks again about the God who expects this boy to help develop the world. Why does God take everything away from him every time? Suddenly, Darcia tells the boy that she can't hold on any longer. The hero tearfully begs her to stay and endure a little longer, but Darcia begins to melt away, even though she herself wants so much to stay, even for a little while longer. She cries and gently cups her son's face in her hands. She wants to see the boy grow up and become a man. She wants to be at his wedding, to hold his children in her arms. She wants to see him happy. All skill levels soar to 10 and reach their limit. The hero stops crying and says he understands his mother. He looks at her intently and unleashes all his magic on her. He gives her every drop of mana he has left. He needs to find a vessel for her soul. If he puts it into a random object, it will be extremely difficult to restore her consciousness. He calls over the bone monkey, which brings him a fragment of Darcia's bone. Wendell thinks this might work. He asks his mother's soul to enter the fragment. By sealing the soul inside, the hero saved it from complete extinction. He vows to find a new body for her. Now he has no mana left for revenge, so he orders the bone monkey to return home. He swears that everyone who caused his mother suffering will pay dearly. He just needs to wait. None of them will escape retribution. Wendell sits on the bed and looks out the window. His mother's soul asks if he is awake yet. She hopes he has slept well. It is already noon. Yesterday was a very difficult day, but Darcia's soul is glad that he is alright. The hero thought he would die, but the nets he had set caught a raccoon and he managed to avoid starvation. Darcia smiles warmly. The hero recalls the events of yesterday, how he found her in the square. His mother was about to leave this world for good, but the boy stopped her with the help of the death charm skill. Perhaps she was afraid of experiencing the shock of losing her own son. Wendell apologizes to her. He promises that one day he will bring her back to life, and until then, he asks her not to think about her disappearance. Darcia says she will always be by his side. The hero promises to bring back his mother's true smile. Wendell addresses the bone monkeys, but they do not seem to have gathered yet, not ready yet. He asks all the skeletons to convene a council. The hero thinks he is the only one speaking here, and talking all alone is somehow depressing. At dawn, the Baron and his knights, High Priest Gordon and his men, will begin combing the forest in search of the child's hiding place. The hunters have not revealed the location of the hideouts. They do not want unnecessary responsibility. The Baron and Gordon will not look there. The real enemy is the hunters who know this place. Therefore, the skeletons will have to fight. There are about 30 of them. If there are only 3 opponents, that should be enough. But how dangerous are these 3 really? Wendell decides to test them out by arranging a sort of arm wrestling match with one of the skeletons. The little guy wins easily and complete silence reigns. Somewhere in the forest, the 3 hunters hurry to their refuge, hoping the knights won't get there first. The hooded hunter tells Orby to calm down. Even if the temple knights are the best warriors, finding shelter in such a forest is not as easy as it seems. Orby asks them to be careful. He doesn't want to end up in the jaws of a bear or a monkey before he gets rich. The hooded hunter suddenly stops him and asks him to look at the tracks of a large monkey, and nearby, the tracks of a bear. Orby doesn't believe it. The tracks should be deeper. The animals are clearly too small for such tracks. But then, what left them? Orby waves his hand. There is nothing like that in this forest. They have been hunting here long enough to know. He urges the others on again. If the child dies, the money will be lost. Finally, they find Wendell's shelter. Bones and broken dishes are scattered around. Orby is frightened. What if the knights have already been here? He rushes forward, but suddenly the ground beneath him begins to shake. The hunter falls and a huge earth golem rises from the ground. He is terrified, and nearby, an army of skeletons is already lining up, ready to attack. All 3 try to run away in tears, but Orby stumbles, gets caught on something and falls. He thinks he stepped on trash or a snake, but it turns out to be ivy moving on its own. The hunters are in shock. What the hell is going on here? The hunter in the hood is hit by a flying frying pan. It smacks him on the head. The third gets tangled in the ivy, and none of them can escape. And then the earth golem descends upon them with full fury. After a while, the hunters are hanging from trees, tied up with ivy. Wendell appears before them, riding a skeleton. The operation was a success. The tied-up hunters look at the little boy in amazement and cannot believe that this child is capable of commanding the undead. The hero is mentally satisfied. Before him are such naive fools, whom an army of weak but terrifying-looking skeletons was able to scare. Wendell tries to address the hunters, but he cannot speak yet, so he creates a monster out of sand. It scares one of the hunters a little, then forms, on the ground into words. A message from Wendell. The inscription orders them to sit quietly and answer questions. The ivy whip is removed from the prisoners' mouths, and they cry out in unison for mercy, promising to tell everything. Wendell remembers how his mother told him about the god of the heavens and the creation of the world of Zivania. He summoned 7 heroes from another world to oppose the armies of the Dark Lord Guduranas. These heroes taught people martial arts, taught them how to create powerful weapons, and fearlessly led the troops themselves. After fierce battles, they believed and sealed away evil, then remained in this world and taught its inhabitants the language of their homeland. Wendell understands that these were heroes from Japan, and since he himself is a reincarnated Japanese man, he understands the speech of all people in this world. Here they speak Japanese, use hiragana and katakana, while kanji characters are only accessible to the aristocracy and educated merchants. Wendell uses sand writing to ask about Baron Bester. He came to power 10 years ago. He is extremely ambitious. Otherwise, he is unremarkable, an ordinary aristocrat. Then the hero asks about his knights. Another hunter replies, "There are only 5 knights. The rest are ordinary citizens who have been called up for military service. They are trained but not outstanding." The hunter suggests dealing with them. With such a lord of the undead, it will be an easy victory. Wendell is not interested and orders him to simply answer questions. A new inscription appears in the sand, a demand to tell about Golden and the clergy. The high priest and his warriors are always in the city. They returned half a month ago and posted notices about the search for the witch and her child. Golden is known as a vampire hunter. The warriors he brought with him are the elite of the church. He differs from ordinary clergymen in his strength and obsession. Golden has already executed many, both vampires and their servants. It is said that among those executed were vampires several centuries old, whose power was on par with that of Class B mercenaries. The hunters offer to join forces again. They may be useful. The boy orders the skeleton to release them. They rejoice and promise to become loyal allies. But the skeleton grabs one of them and holds him tightly while Wendell sinks his teeth into his neck and drinks his blood. Lunch is over. The boy asks the bone monkey to pat him on the back. The bitten hunter collapses to the ground, exhausted. The boy reminds them again, just answer the questions. The 2 remaining hunters nod feverishly. Wendell thinks about the heroes of the Rainbow Sword. Their leader, Hanny, is still a teenager, but has already reached Class B, a careerist who has won 2 titles. The other members of the group are Class C, but they are also strong and talented. Add Golden to that, and Wendell clearly cannot handle them now. The kid on the skeleton turns around to leave. The hunters call after him, begging him to let them go. But they killed his mother, which means they have only one fate, to become food. 2 months later, somewhere in the forest, Golden kills a goblin with a single blow. One of the knights suggests that the Dhampir could have been taken by his father, or that the child simply died. The knight mentions the hunter who reported the boy, but Golden interrupts. They went hunting and have not yet returned, and the bodies were never found. Isn't that strange? The knight wonders, could it be the Dhampir's revenge? He's just a newborn, after all. But Golden objects. Such cases are not so impossible. If the boy is let go now, it could turn into a big problem in the future. The knight believes that it is impossible to comb through the entire forest on their own, especially since the baronet has already withdrawn his men. In addition, the forest has been closed for 2 months, and the residents of Vasia, deprived of resources, are beginning to openly protest. Golden is furious. He knows all this himself. The knight interrupts him. There are more important places. Vampires continue to hide in the darkness and attack people. How long can you wander around this forest without a single clue? Finally, Golden decides to leave Ephesia. Wendell and the bird skeleton enjoy the warm, sunny day. He can already speak a little. The hero didn't think that old Golden would stay here for 2 whole months, and mentally goes over everything that has happened during that time. 2 months ago, Darcia says it's better to get out of here as soon as possible. People recognize him as a vampire at first glance, so it's better not to go near settlements. Mom explains. They are in the central part of the Bangaya mainland, in the vassal state of Milj, a border territory of the Amida Empire, neighbouring Orbau. The Church of Alda has a strong influence in this region. Vampires and their ilk are considered unnatural and dangerous creatures here. Mercenary guilds constantly put bounties on them. Once Wendell leaves home, he will lose his safe haven and will not be able to sleep peacefully. But is it possible to hide until the hunters give up? Wendell isn't 100% sure, but he has an idea. First, he decides to deepen the cave by creating earthen golems to block the entrance. Outside, he scatters debris from furniture and utensils and disguises the cave itself to look as if it had collapsed. His thoughts are interrupted by the touched ghosts of the hunters, who try to befriend their master. Because of the magic of death, Wendell is inexplicably drawn to spirits, even if he does not want to be. The trio asks him to command them to do anything. They are now his most loyal servants. The hero loses his temper and instills the souls of the hunters into earth golems. There is work for them. The cave needs columns that will hold up the ceiling and stand in place forever. A few days later, the hero deepened the cave by 50 meters and decided to finish the work. He doesn't need lighting. He can see in the dark. There seem to be enough food and water supplies, but after half a month, it turns out that this is not the case. The hungry hero eats a worm, and soon, he was turned inside out. Suddenly, water bursts through a crack in the wall and begins to flood the cave. Several times the boy was on the verge of death, but each time he survived and eventually made it out. He is so happy to see the sun that he promises himself never again to live a life where the happiest event is catching a mole. Although his pursuers have left, he is still too small for a long journey. He needs to sleep a lot and has difficulty walking, so for now, he will prepare and hide here. Wendell thinks about Golden and Rainbow Sword. If they dare to die before their time, he will finish them off himself. Soon he begins special training for his army of skeletons. He needs to prepare for battle. He himself cannot become stronger because of the curse, so he needs to strengthen his servants. After racking his brains over how to train the bones, he makes them run. But bones have neither heart nor lungs. It is pointless to pump up their endurance. Then the skeletons try strength exercises, but they have no muscles either. Martial arts don't work either. Wendell gives the skeleton a bow. It swings and hits another skeleton with the bow. The hero pushes its leg slightly, and it instantly falls down. Wendell is in despair. It's hopeless. How can these things be made combat ready? Remembering his curse, he notices that warriors gain experience in battle, peasants in the fields, and blacksmiths at the anvil. All of this gives experience points. But how do the undead level up? A goblin, the weakest of monsters, is found in the forest. Wendell orders the skeletons to take it. Since the undead are also considered monsters, they can earn points by killing people. But as soon as they start, the mercenary guild will quickly pick up the trail. The hero does not want to return to underground life. The skeletons deal with the goblin, and a notification appears on the status screen. The bones have been upgraded to the 2nd level. Wendell rejoices. The undead can gain experience by killing living monsters. Suddenly, the boy's own level rises to the 3rd despite the curse. Could it be that he is getting some of the points from the undead army? After all, when he killed animals for food or dealt with hunters, no points were added. It turns out that under the terms of the curse, he himself cannot gain experience, but his servants can. Could there really be such an obvious loophole in the god's curse? It's so simple that it's suspicious. Could it be a trap? Although the god who imposed the curse was irresponsible and short-sighted, so maybe it would be possible to deal with other curses as well. Wendell's thoughts are interrupted by a skeleton asking what to do with the dead goblin. The hero thinks he could turn it into an undead creature and add it to his army, but it's better to focus on quality rather than quantity. The goblin is simply buried. The boy decides to work especially hard on the 5 best fighters in his squad, those whose bones are all intact and in place. A skeleton, a bird, a monkey, a bear, and a wolf. Sometime later, late at night in the forest, the skeletons and Darcia's soul gather around a campfire. The grown-up Wendell comes out to them. His mother congratulates him on his 1st birthday. The bird gives the boy a fang-shaped pendant and hangs it around his neck. Everyone around sing and rejoice. Wendell thanks him, but the boy is happy even without it. He remembers his past human life. On his birthday, his father's relatives taught him not to get used to celebrations. Otherwise, he would grow up weak and spoiled. The hero is used to not expecting gifts or cakes. This is the first real birthday in his life. He celebrates in earnest. However, today there are many reasons to be happy. Since mastering the skill Reverse Spell, he has learned to perform non-verbal magic at standard mana consumption. Darcia is surprised. She's never heard of such a skill. Perhaps it appeared precisely because he had to cast spells in complete silence for so long. In a preview, Darcia rejoiced. Did this mean they could finally leave this forest? But it wasn't that simple. Of course, although the bone servants have become much more powerful, for experienced mercenaries they are still a single blow. Therefore, recently the undead have stopped gaining experience from their usual victims. In this world, killing a criminal is not considered a crime. Besides, he has some ideas about where the bandits might be. They drink to their leader. One of the bandits asks why they are moving so quickly. But his words are drowned out by the wild laughter of the Wendell. The hero agrees. Over the past month, he and the skeletons have dealt with a considerable number of bandits. The leader of the gang is a former soldier, and his men are well trained. They carry weapons not for show, so they will not surrender without a fight. But night and tomorrow the whole gang is leaving. And yet, they were still put on guard duty. One suggests to the other that they return to the party, but before he can finish, an arrow pierces his neck. He was killed by a skeleton, one of Wendell's subordinates. The gang raises the alarm, grabs their equipment, and prepares for battle. An entire army of bone creatures is rushing towards them. The robbers see first and second level monsters, no match for them. The enthusiastic gang rushes into the attack. Despite their overconfidence, the monsters take down the bandits one by one. Some of the skeletons crush people in their hands, while others tear flesh with their teeth. A powerful third-rank bone warrior cuts off the head of one of the bandits. The bandits panic. They can no longer hold back these creatures and call out to their leader. He did not expect such strength and realizes that he has no chance against this army of the undead. Even if he manages to defeat one, the rest will immediately fall upon him. He decides to abandon his men. The leader urges the gang to hold out until the end and crush everyone, but he himself takes off. He notices the merchant's car and rushes towards it. But suddenly, a wall appears out of nowhere in front of him. He turns around and sees Wendella. He can't believe his eyes. Such a small child is controlling all these undead creatures alone. The souls of the two burned girls appear next to the hero. They cower at the sight of the leader. They remember how this bandit and his men raped them right in front of their bound father. After the abuse, the bandits offered to sell the girls to their boss, but he didn't want to bother with them. To him, they were just toys. He left his subordinates to deal with them themselves. The bandits doused the exhausted girls with alcohol and set them on fire, alive. Wendell calls on the Bone Bear to deal with the criminal. The leader, realizing how this will end, surrenders and offers himself as an ally, promising enormous help. The boy really would like to have allies among humans, but someone who abandons his comrades in battle is incapable of being useful. Wendell orders the bear to finish him off. The leader screams that he does not want to die. Then the death mage suggests that he go and tell this to those he himself has killed. The hero leaves, thinking to himself, talking to people is stressful. He's not used to it at all. In the crowd of rushing robbers, the boy notices Tits. He is a second-rank bone vulture. He was easily kicked aside. Wendell picks him up and feels sorry for him. No matter how hard he tried, he never developed any combat abilities. He has no feathers, so he cannot fly. He is an unfortunate creature, but there is still a chance. If he gains enough experience, his rank will rise and perhaps flight will become a reality. The bone vulture is encouraged by his master's words. Wendell decides to check if anyone else is still alive. He uses his to detect life and sees that there is someone in the house. The spirits say that there were no more than 21 bandits. He himself senses 21 bodies in the vicinity. He asks the spirit of the slain leader who was hiding in the house. The spirit replies, "A merchant who was captured a few days ago. He comes from a very wealthy family living on the lands of Viscount Maggio. The ransom for him would be enormous, so the bandits decided to keep him alive." Wendell heads toward the merchant who is sitting in a cage. The hero informs the captive that the bandits who captured him are dead. He frees the guy and asks him not to tell anyone that he ever met him. He thinks to himself, it would be easier to kill this man and get rid of the evidence. But he is an innocent victim. Killing the merchant would mean sinking to the level of those bandits and bastards who tormented him in the past. He won't allow that. Besides, when Amamiya and his fake heroes are reborn in this world, Wendell won't give them the chance to kill him in the name of justice. The merchant following the boy can't believe that he was saved by a Dhampir child and considers him to be good. He is glad to have escaped with his life. Leaving the house, the boy sees a field of dead bandits in front of him, among whom skeletons wander leisurely. Amidst this chaos, the bone warrior lets out a triumphant cry. Wendell warns the merchant, if he utters a single word about his existence, these guys will come after him. It is a sunny day. Wendell has settled in the former hideout of the gang. As expected from the largest gang in the area, there is a lot of loot. Judging by the outcome of the battle, the robbers' weak spot was not their poor combat skills, but their lack of proper surveillance. Darcia notices the young merchant and asks her son if he wants to see him off. The hero believes that the dice will decide. He has already returned all of the young man's belongings and even given him his horse. Among the supplies he finds, the hero discovers some decent food and wants to cook something tasty. But Darcia immediately objects. She won't let a 1-year-old baby stand by the fire. It's dangerous. Wendell protests. Dried meat and stale bread are not the best diet for a small child. But his jaw is much stronger than that of his peers. He is quite capable of chewing tough food. Darcia forbids it anyway, afraid that the boy will burn himself. She scolds her son sternly and tells him to obey. He agrees and apologizes. A little later, Wendell and his team load all the loot into the cart and prepare to head back. But they gave the horse to the merchant. Sam's spirit offers to help. During his lifetime, Sam worked as a coachman and horse trainer for the nobility. He has plenty of experience. Wendell agrees. Considering that the man cannot maintain his human form, his will is still strong. Sam thanks the gentleman for his retribution and promises to do everything possible to repay him. His soul enters the carriage and now he controls it as if it were his own body. Sam orders everyone to take their seats and Wendell's squad sets off. The servant fills a glass with wine and congratulates the aristocrat on his promotion to Baron. Although, the appointment has not yet been confirmed. All that remains is to receive a summons from the imperial capital. All this was made possible by the execution of the witch and the capture of Dhampir. This year, the wine harvest was good, the problems with bandits subsided, and diseases receded. Wendell gives the order to destroy it. Bricks begin to fall from the outer wall of the city. Forming a huge golem. The guards don't understand what's happening until they notice the monster. The captain orders them to hurry and do something to stop it. But the golem does not attack the city, it simply dismantles the outer wall. Without it, defending the city from robbers and monsters will be much more difficult. The soldiers don't know how to deal with such a giant, and the captain just shouts to move. Forward. A servant bursts into the aristocrat's room and reports that something is happening in the city. He begs his master to leave the building immediately. Running out into the street, the man sees his house begin to crumble. Windows, doors, furniture fold into a huge monster. The golem raises its foot over the aristocrat, but he panics and runs away. Nearby, the servant appears with a barrel, and the master himself asks where the knights and adventurers from the guild have gone. It turns out that the guild building has also been turned into a monster. In addition, the wine cellars have also been turned into golems. The entire wine stock, including the export stock, has disappeared. The Baron falls to his knees, mourning his loss in despair. The golem leaves. For Wendell, everything is going according to plan. Every night he sneaked into the city and created golems, patiently waiting for the right moment. It took a long time, but once the preparations are complete, everything happens by itself. It is gratifying to see the plan come to fruition. The boy asks his mother to look at the people who once laughed at her. Now they are running away in fear and despair. Darcia thanks her son for everything he has done for her. He worked so hard to make this revenge happen. Wendell ponders, everyone in this town deserves to die for what they did to his mother. So why did he let them live? The boy doesn't know how long it will take for Darcia to recover. That means the people here will also have to rebuild. He did give them a second chance, and his mother is very proud of that. After a moment's hesitation, she gently strokes his head. Wendell thinks, for ordinary townspeople, such revenge is just right. But those bastards who killed his mother deserve something else, and he will take their lives himself. Approaching the phantom bird, the hero calls it to come with him, grabs its claws, and takes flight. The bird has leveled up to rank 3 and can finally fly. Outside the city, at the edge of the forest, Wendell spots his cart with the skeletons and descends to them. Somewhere in the desert, under the scorching sun, Darcia walks alongside a man. Suddenly, the elf staggers and struggles to breathe. The man reacts immediately. Leaning against him, she apologizes. The man, named Velen, suggests they rest. It is difficult for him to walk in such heat, let alone Darcia in her condition. They take shelter in the shade of a large rock. He apologizes to her. He should have taken care of everything in advance. He swears to protect her and the baby with his life. Darcia rests her head on his shoulder, thanks him, and hopes that everything will be alright. They dream of finding a quiet place where the three of them can live peacefully. The man asks the elf what they will name the baby. Somewhere along the road, Wendell's van rolls slowly along with the skeletons. Darcia explains that there are 4 generations of vampires in the world. The first are those born from the union of the goddess Vida and the hero Zakat. They are true vampires, but they were exterminated long ago and forgotten. Next are the direct descendants of the true vampires, the purebloods. The children of the purebloods are called the noble ones. Finally, there are the bitten servants of the noble and pureblooded, who are called the lowly ones. The higher a vampire is in this hierarchy, the stronger it is. They all share a fear of the sun, magical abilities, and a thirst for blood. Wendell's father was born human, a thief from the slums, until he was bitten. The boy expected something more impressive from his father. Darcia objects. The main thing is not who he was, but what he was. Velen was immune to sunlight, which set him apart from everyone else. Perhaps his son inherited this gene from his father, which is why he is not afraid of light. Velen achieved a lot. He served a pure-blooded vampire, gathered information, and was something like his right-hand man. It was then that he met Darcia. The elf was very surprised when he approached and spoke to her. He was handsome, and she immediately fell in love. A few months later, a new life was born, little Wendell. This did not please the pure-blooded lord, who condemned interracial relationships for spoiling pure blood. He decided to execute Darcia and Velen, but they escaped. It wasn't that difficult. Unlike other vampires, they can move around during the day without fear of the sun. However, over time, it became increasingly difficult for Darcia to move around, and Velen was exhausted from constantly protecting his beloved. Be that as it may, Darcia misses those days. Back then, everything didn't seem so bleak. They were happy. The woman returns to her memories. Wellen suggests choosing a name for the baby. They did not yet know whether it would be a boy or a girl, so they decided to come up with both options. He suggests combining their names, taking half of his and half of Darcia's. If it's a girl, it will be Velsi, and if it's a boy... Suddenly, the couple finds themselves in the city, caught in by rain. They hurry to find shelter, but men in cloaks appear on the road, ready to attack. Velen asks Darcia to run. They can't escape together. He decides to delay the attackers and buy time, but the elf does not want to. Velen insists, and Darcia, remembering the baby, runs away after all. The man is glad that at least she and the child will live and asks her to take care of the baby. The hero's father died protecting him and his mother. Darcia ran away, settled in the forest, and gave birth to a boy there. She gave him the name that she and Velen had come up with together, Wendell. She asks her son if he likes the story behind his name. The boy smiles and says that wonderful. His mother is happy and sure that his father would have been happy too. She suddenly tries to remember what they were talking about just now. The hero begins to notice that his mother is becoming increasingly confused, her memory gradually falling apart. Unlike Sam, who died with a burden of unfulfilled duty, Mum's soul is already ready to leave, and her consciousness is slowly fading. Wendell's magic keeps her mind intact, but a new body must be found for her as soon as possible. His thoughts are interrupted by a loud cry. Apparently Sam's soul, controlling the car, accidentally ran over a goblin. The hero did not gain any experience from the monster's death. A new way to level up must be found. Darcia believes that her baby is already strong enough. Usually, people gather in a whole squad to kill a goblin. This is true, but the hero's goals require constant growth, which means he needs to find a way to move forward. A few days later, Wendell and his team return to the cave. They could have spent the night in the Dark Elf settlement, but Darcia believes they would not be allowed in. There is no proof that he is an elf child. The hero agrees. Even his skin color would not inspire trust. They need to think of another place. Since those who hunt Dhampirs are followers of Alda, perhaps they should head to a place where they are not welcome. His mother agrees and suggests heading for the kingdom of Orbum. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. Perhaps they have a different attitude towards Dhampirs there. She has never been there herself, but she has heard that the country is ruled by monsters and giants. Perhaps Wendell will not be met with prejudice there. There are no guarantees, but staying in the cave is also unsafe, so the boy decides to give it a try. He suggests that Darcia set out for Orbum at dawn, and for now, they should take a rest. The hero asks Sam to wake him at dawn, but then their attention is drawn to the wandering soul of an unknown man, brought to the fire by Wendell's mighty power. The man objects, sounding presumptuous. He is not wandering at all. The spirit introduces himself as a well-known spy and informant, and says he is ready to share some important information. He spied for the good of the Empire, but was killed on his way back from a mission and did not have time to report his findings. He begs Wendell to listen to his state secret, otherwise the spirit will never find peace. The hero agrees. A little later, the joyful spirit thanks the boy and says goodbye, ascending to heaven. Darcia scolds her son. You can't talk to strangers. As it turns out, the spy reported on the impending war between the Empire and the Kingdom. At the border with Wendelia, they are unlikely to be investigated. To everyone, he and his squad are just suspicious strangers. There is no point in moving to the eastern border of the state. The hero asks Sam to head south. There they will reach the wildlands and try to get to Orboma through them. Sam's spirit believes that this could be dangerous. The wildlands and their inhabitants are an unpredictable force of nature. Even adventurers try to avoid this territory. Rumor has it that this is where the legendary Zakard died. Wendell believes that this is still better than constantly running from the Imperial soldiers, and Sam agrees. Thus, the squad turn toward the deadly wasteland known as Devil's Nest. On the way, Sam stops and asks the gentleman to look at the structure. Wendell mistakes it for a pile of useless bricks. In fact, this dungeon is known as the Lair of Monsters. Here, monsters dwell far from the human world and its magic. Most creatures live in the wastelands, but some settle in human territories. The boy assumes that they are already close to the wastelands, but Darcia objects. If that were the case, there would be a whole horde of different monsters here. This means that it is only a small outpost outside the main lair. The monsters in this dungeon are relatively weak, and perhaps someone else lives there. The mother, guessing what the boy is getting at, advises him not to go there. It's dangerous. The hero understands, but sees this as a great opportunity to level up. If he deals with the weak enemies now and becomes stronger, there will be fewer dangers ahead. Sam urges Darcy to agree with the gentleman. He has already made up his mind anyway. She gives in and asks him to look after her son. She is unlikely to be able to help him herself. Wendell gives the order to move forward and conquer the dungeon. A whole crowd of small goblins rushes out to meet them. The hero did not expect such a gathering, and this is only the first room. It seems that no one has touched this place for years, and it has quietly grown until his arrival. Darcia explains that in this world, there are forgotten but inhabited dungeons. The boy understands. If the monsters inside are weak, people simply ignore such places. And sometimes a dungeon exists only because no one wants to clear it out. Sam notices that Wendell doesn't think like a child at all, and asks him to be a little more reasonable in public, given his age. Darcia says that he has always been this way. It's all because of his past lives, which the boy doesn't remember. The hero interrupts the conversation and promises to try to behave like a child should, so as not to arouse suspicion from outsiders. At the same time, he asks Sam to stop calling him Sir. Sam decides that young Sir sounds much better. After all, he looks like a newborn. Wendell tries to explain that they misunderstood him. Darcia smiles. What a modest baby she has. He clearly dislikes this title. Sam understands, but assures her that if the other spirits could speak, they would address him in exactly the same way. As for Sam's daughters, they lost their speech forever, having lost their voices in their death throes. Wendell wants to help the poor girl's soul somehow, but Sam doesn't believe it's possible. Besides, the boy has already helped their souls find peace, and so Sam decides to continue calling him Sir. Suddenly, a skeletal monkey runs up to the hero, demanding praise from its master. The hero pats it on the skull and says that it is doing a good job. Sam suggests doing the same as the monkey, but the boy, vividly imagining this picture, agrees to respond to young Sir. Darcia apologizes to the team. She has reached her limit for today. She asks everyone to look after her son, wishes Wendell sweet dreams, and disappears. Sam, who knows the pain of loss better than anyone, promises to do everything he can to ensure that none of them ever experience it again. Moving further into the dungeon, the hero stumbles upon a staircase leading to the next room. The skeletons carefully help the cart down. Wendell thinks that the main problem in this dungeon is not the enemies, but the stairs, and hopes that it will be the same further on. The squad approaches the final boss, a huge knight sitting on a throne, waiting for it. Enemies. The skeletons carefully lower the cart down the steps, but suddenly, second-level poisonous frogs appear in their path. Wendell calls everyone to attack, although it's starting to get annoying. He pushes Sam's cart forward. The cart easily crushes the frogs. They put up almost no resistance. The hero apologizes to Sam, but the spirit is pleased. He loves crushing monsters. It's embarrassing to admit, but it only excites him. The boy asks him not to get carried away. Meanwhile, the squad is already on the 4th level, something like a cave. 3rd level undead soldiers crawl out of the ground. Sam admits that he can't stand the dead. Wendell suggests retreating and thinking up a plan. But suddenly, the zombie soldiers line up in 2 rows and freeze at attention. The hero is shocked. Sam doesn't understand either. Is it really possible to just walk through? The dead throw down their weapons. The spirit in the cart fears a trap, but the gentleman feels no threat. Sam finds this surprising. Wendell has suppressed the will of such a huge number of dead people with his mere presence, without even realizing it. The boy decides to have a snack. There are only undead around, so they are safe. The hero wants to cook a frog leg, but Darcia, who suddenly appears behind him, forbids him to even approach the fire. Wendell remembers this, so the monkey will be the boss today. The skeleton tries his best to build a fire with a stick and a board, but nothing works. He offers to help the gentleman with his infernal flame, but it is ineffective in the dungeons, where it is difficult to absorb the sun's heat. In the end, the skeleton monkey manages to get the leg ready. Wendell happily devours the roasted meat. It turns out to be even tastier than raw blood. Sam doubts that it is edible at all. The boy remembers that the man used to be a butler. He must have eaten well. But that's not the case. Sam's family didn't live in luxury, even though they lived in a real palace. He, his wife, and daughters served an aristocrat. For Sam, it was a happy time. He couldn't have asked for anything better. Then his wife fell ill and died, and soon after, the same illness took the life of his employer. His services were no longer needed, and Sam and his family moved to the city. They did not lose heart and hoped for the best, but on the road, they were attacked by those very robbers. His spirit is saddened by the onslaught of memories, but he is still happy. Now he has a reason to exist. He likes being a cart. Wendell looks longingly at the souls of Sam's daughters. Moving on, the group encounters the ogre. The ogre politely lets the cart pass and wishes them luck. On the way, the hero notices a chest. Darcia asks him to be vigilant. Chests can be dangerous. It could be a trap. Besides, it still needs to be opened, and that can be very difficult at times. The hero decides to open it with magic, commanding the chest to awaken. Inside, the boy finds a bottle with a liquid that looks like poison. Sam explains that it is not poison, but an elixir, a healing potion. Darcia explains that it is a useful item, and judging by its appearance, the one in her son's hands is of the highest quality. It's all about the color. The brighter the elixir, the richer it is. This one is perfectly preserved. One like this can be sold for no less than 10,000 amids, a rarity even among aristocrats. Wendell is curious about how effective it is. It can't grow a new limb, but the potion can heal any wound, restore stamina and mana, and remove curses, diseases, and poisons. The boy understands that he has a real treasure in his hands. No wonder everyone is so eager to go to the dungeons. There are so many wonders here. But luck doesn't always strike. More often than not, seekers find only worn-out knives and useless trinkets. What Wendell found is a real jackpot. A little later, the group sees a gate in front of them. Where did it come from in the middle of the dungeon? The hero senses something fishy. Darcia explains. This is the boss room. The strongest monster always dwells at the bottom. Is it worth going there? Each of the warriors they encountered was at least level 4, but they never fought them, never tested their strength. Sam suggests turning back, but since they've come this far, it would be strange to retreat. The boy decides to try, and if worst comes to worst, run. The gates suddenly opened, by themselves. Animated armor emerged from them. Empty suits of armor possessed by spirits. But Wendell isn't looking at them. Something huge looms behind them. A skeleton general. They certainly can't defeat that. The boy is intrigued. He jumps off the cart and walks toward the boss. His loyal army of skeletons follows him. Coming closer, the skeleton general swings his axe and kneels, respectfully offering his weapon to the hero. The squad is stunned. Wendell has conquered the general himself, but the boy cannot simply accept the gift. He calls over his skeleton soldier and asks him to take the general's axe, giving him the shields taken from the bandits in return. But Wendell doesn't stop there. He directs his magic at the monster and upgrades it to a 6th level Black Skull General. The hero himself did not expect this of himself and decides to try it on the others later. Infusing armor with a soul is a good idea. This way, the ghost will gain a solid physical body and be able to wield weapons. The combat power of the squad will increase. Sam thinks this is reasonable and asks to use the souls of his daughters. Sally and Rita won't become formidable warriors, and they're not great maids either, but at least they can help with the cooking. This is not a problem for Wendell, but suitable armor must be found for the girls. The boy walks forward and examines the remaining chests. In one of them, he finds a steel breastplate. Sam explains that it is magical armor. Everything found in the chests is part of a single steel set designed for refined ladies. It's just what the daughters need, although Wendell thinks the choice is mediocre and suggests looking further. But Sam insists they've waited too long already. The boy agrees and instills the girls' souls into the armor. A few more levels and they will be able to talk to their father. The armor turns out to be of a very unusual design. Sam doesn't understand these names. Such fashion has not yet reached this world, but their father doesn't care. He is just happy for his daughters. Somewhere in another dungeon, a group of seekers is fighting a huge monster general named Black Skull. The battle is difficult for them. Their leader doesn't understand. The level of this monster clearly doesn't match this dungeon. He urges his friends not to give up and to attack together. The hero swings his sword and delivers the final blow to the monster. The skeleton is defeated, its weapons shattered into pieces. The squad catches their breath. It seemed like they were going to die, but the final boss is defeated. One of the heroines notes that this is a strange dungeon. There was no one on the upper levels, but starting from the third level, there were high-level monsters at every turn. They had to retreat and regroup more than once. But they made it through, which means it's time to divide the reward. The leader is expecting a rich haul. But when the guys open the chests, they are empty. No legendary artifacts, no valuables, nothing at all. The heroes are shocked. How is this possible? They think someone must have been here before them. But the leader disagrees. They destroyed the main boss. How could someone have taken the treasure without defeating him? The only explanation that comes to mind is that there was nothing here to begin with. The leader is furious. To hell with this dungeon and all its treasures. At that moment, Wendell sneezes in his cart. No cold, which means someone is thinking badly of him. Although he doesn't believe in omens. From a distance, he watches the training battle. Sam's daughter's armor fights against a skeleton soldier. The girls have chosen the halberd as their weapon. A difficult choice, especially considering that they have only recently begun to master their new bodies. The hero thinks about working on their movement skills first, but they seem to be fine with that. They know what they're doing. The boy suggests switching to simpler weapons if necessary, but the sisters ignore him. They are too enthusiastic. They want to become stronger and be useful to their master. The hero is pleased with their attitude, but he is concerned. There are already enough fighters in the squad, and he did not force the girls to join. Sam reassures them that such training is not dangerous. Without bodies, injuries are nothing to them. Wendell agrees and asks the girls to come closer. The boy directs his magic into the armor, and suddenly, the girls fall to the ground. He used the same spell he used on the skeleton general, trying to transfer some of his power to them. But something went wrong. Sam asks, what is the difference between that case and this one? It seems that something is being overlooked. All that remains is to wait for the girls to upgrade themselves. One of the sisters tugs at Wendell's cloak. Sam explains that she's not asking to try again. They just felt something. The boy says he'll help when they find it difficult to grow on their own. But for now, he asks them to return to training. They leave and the hero gets down to business. He wants to make nut juice from the nuts he has collected. Darcia explains how it's done. First, lightly roast the nuts, then cool and peel them. The earth golem tends the fire. The boy he has in mind, Mum, thinks it's quite ambitious. But doesn't he dream of something even greater? What could be more important than becoming the ruler of the whole world? After all, then no one would dare harm him, and his position would become a real protection. Darcia agrees and asks, what will he do after defeating all the villains? Wendell thinks about it and finally decides to just enjoy life. He wants a family, success, and prosperity. But he's not talking about mansions and luxury. The hero just wants to live freely and not want for anything. A classmate picked it up and the others started laughing. Hirota asked for the stub back. He didn't have another one. He used pencils until the very end because he couldn't afford a new one. A little later, a happy Hirota was doing his homework at home with his new pencil, until his guardian snatched it out of his hands. He demanded an explanation of what it was. The boy said it was a gift from a friend. The guardian broke the pencil in half, called it all crap, and threw it in and he declared that he would die the day after him. The gloomy boy apologized, but his guardian still wouldn't let up, and began rummaging through his backpack, looking for other toys. Wendell finally finished making the juice, Darcia praised. Suddenly, the hero says that he may reconsider his plans for the future, but first, he wants to get to Orbamar as soon as possible. His mother agrees and thinks that there is no need to rush. On the way in the cart, the hero feels cold. Is winter coming? But Sam explains that winter is still far away. The cold comes from the demon territory they have finally reached. It will only get worse from here, and it will be difficult to make it through these lands before spring. So, Sam suggests settling down for a while and hunting down the villains. After the dungeon, he is upgraded to the 3rd level of the ghost cart and is ready for revenge once again. Wendell agrees. Sam has become much more substantial and looks great. Now his spirit is not only a human form, but the entire carriage. Suddenly, the hero asks Sam to listen. A woman is screaming somewhere, and the air smells of fresh blood. It seems that bandits have attacked someone. Sam waits for his master's instructions. Wendell is unsure of their strength. The number of enemies is unknown. Sam wants to help, but the hero has the final say. The boy sends the vulture to scout, and through its eyes, he sees a girl lying unconscious on the ground, surrounded by 5 men. One of them is tearing off her clothes and groping her. Wendell can't take it anymore and orders Sam to move forward, spare no one. The spirit happily agrees. The chances are slim, but they have no right to abandon the girl in trouble. If she decides to betray them, the boy will deal with her personally. Wendell gives the order for the squad to gather. It is time for justice. 3 dark-skinned girls with long ears are sitting in a clearing in the forest. Their leader explains that today they will continue their lesson in herbalism. One of them, Vilda, is clearly alarmed. She feels uncomfortable being so close to the border of the demon's territory. Vilda suggests holding the lesson closer to the village. The leader understands her, but sooner or later, they may have to leave their refuge. Then at least they will know what surrounds them. She wants to pass on her knowledge so that their clan can continue to thrive in this wonderful and dangerous world. She asks if they understand why this is important. The 3 girls enthusiastically agree and immediately begin whispering among themselves about how cool their leader is. They discuss her beautiful eyes and delightful appearance. Vilda calls the leader sweet, although this is perhaps a little disrespectful. The leader scolds the girls. They are in class, not at a social gathering. What are they thinking? The leader decides that she needs to take their discipline more seriously and teach them to defend themselves. She makes a mental note to talk to Vigaro about it. The girls call out to the leader and suggest finally getting started. The leader shows them a plant, but suddenly hears a branch crack. She turns sharply and lets out a warning growl. An arrow flies out of nowhere. She barely manages to dodge it. Bandit. The girls notice them. One of the attackers orders his men to surround the girls quickly before they escape. The leader is surprised. There are 5 of them. They don't usually appear at this time of year. It seems that the men have been following them from the beginning, and they don't look like ordinary thugs. The leader begins to use magic. The bandits notice this. One of them urges the others to act before the girls cast their spells. 2 throw a net, but the girls fight back with magic. The leader of the girls blinds the men with a spell. She mentally orders her students to run and get away immediately. While the gang is recovering, the heroine knocks one of them down with a jump. Vilda looks back at her, but the leader tells her not to worry and orders her to run again. For the girls, this is an order. They need to leave and call for help as soon as possible. Vilda agrees and the girls disappear into the thicket. They had no other choice. Vilda asks the leader to forgive them for their weakness. The bandits notice that 3 have escaped, but 1 can still be caught. The men argue, wouldn't it be better to chase all 3? But it's easy to get lost in an unfamiliar forest, and the remaining girl is a powerful sorceress. They will get more for her head than for all 3 of them together. They cannot let her get away. The leader runs with 5 bandits hot on her heels. She is glad that she was able to take them on. If she were younger, she would have taken all 5 of them out with 1 blow. But now she has almost no strength left, even to hide. She didn't expect this of herself. The bandits shoot arrows, but she dodges them and starts zigzagging. Jumping to the side, she doesn't see the ravine. She falls down and finally collapses on the ground, exhausted. There is no escape. It seems that this is the end. But her life has not been in vain. The tribe is safe. Vigaro will be a better leader than she was. He won't let them down. The girls are not yet able to protect themselves, but they will grow stronger with time. The exhausted girl lies on the ground and thinks that her time has come. 5 bandits find her and laugh at her ridiculous fall. Sooner or later, they would have caught up with her anyway. The heroine sees no point in resisting. She cannot win anyway. She resigns herself to her fate and accepts the end of her journey. One of the bandits kicks the girl over and suddenly notices that she is beautiful. They will pay well for such merchandise. Slave traders like to pay generously for delicate goods, and they know how to spend that kind of money. The heroine, realizing what they are talking about, furiously calls them bastards. The bandits are surprised. Does she understand their language? Suddenly, the girl lunges at one of them and squeezes his throat. The man cannot understand where she got the strength. He quietly pulls out a dagger and stabs the girl in the side. The heroine cries out in pain and falls. The bandits grab her and warn each other to hold the bitch tight. They don't have any healing potions, so they can't let her bleed to death, but she won't die from one blow. The man who stabbed her leans over her and says she's holding up well. The blade was enchanted to cause triple damage. She will suffer and eventually beg them to kill her. The bandits decide to have a little fun. She deserves it. One pulls out the dagger and tells her to be obedient. Bending over her, he tears off her clothes and reaches for her. He says that now she's not in so much pain, and it will get even better. Suddenly, one of the bandits is hit by an arrow. Could it be that the three girls have returned? No, it's Wendell's cart, and a skeleton is shooting from it. The bandits don't understand what kind of undead creature is here, but it doesn't matter. The first thing to do is to get rid of the archer. The skeleton shoots again, and misses. Wendell mentally notes that the skeleton's accuracy leaves much to be desired. One of the bandits begins to cast a spell, but the boy creates an absorbing barrier, trapping the enemy mage inside. The others shout that they will cover him and demand that the mage settle the score, but the enraged Sam has no intention of giving them a chance. He warns the bandits to run for their lives or he will gladly crush their skulls. The men realize that things are bad and scatter. Sam knocks them off their feet at full speed and grins as Wendell tumbles onto his back inside the car. Sam is in the thick of battle with the bandits and the undead. Skeletons attack the men and a vulture swoops down from above. A skeleton warrior and both sisters in armor jump out of the cart. Swinging his sword, the soldier lunges at the bandit, who barely manages to block the blow with his shield. The man does not understand how third-rate creatures have gotten so far from the demonic lands. Pushing the skeleton away with his shield, the bandit makes a lightning-fast lunge and cuts off his arm. The bandits call out to the imprisoned mage, but he is powerless. The barrier absorbs all his mana without leaving a trace. He understands how the shield works, but that won't save him. No matter how hard he tries, he can't help. And physical damage is useless against the undead. The bandits lost this battle the moment they lost their mage. Rita attacks the bandit, nearly piercing his neck with her spear. She continues to press forward, but he dodges without much effort. The man thinks that this creature is not particularly dangerous. It can barely hold a weapon in its hands. Without a body or a head, does it even have any vulnerable spots? He wants to attack, but doesn't know where to strike. In the end, he just acts. He slashes the breastplate of the armor with his sword, and the creature, as if embarrassed, covers itself with its hands. Sam suddenly appears nearby, furious. This scoundrel dared to stab his precious daughter. He knocks the bandit down with his wagon at full speed. The whole gang is defeated. The cleanup is complete. Sam apologizes to Wendell for letting his anger get the better of him, but the boy is not upset. The bone soldiers have suffered significant damage, but in a couple of days, they will be as good as new. This battle was an invaluable lesson for the team. They need to understand that until now, they have been fighting low-level enemies. If they encounter a higher-ranked opponent, they could lose just as easily as they did to these bandits. Sam is surprised. Wendell rushed to save the girl without even knowing the level of threat. The boy recalls the torment that Darcia, Rita, and Sally went through, and confirms the spirit's words. The next time, they must act more cautiously. Behind him, the hero hears a hoarse groan. He approaches the girl. The dagger is still stuck in her side. She looks tolerant, but the blade is clearly causing her unbearable pain. Wendell uses magic to neutralize the spell on the blade and says he will treat her wound. Sam asks how death magic will help with the treatment. The hero agrees that on its own it won't, but they have that very elixir from the dungeon. Wendell returns to the girl and reaches for the blade, but she asks him not to pull it out. The boy asks her to calm down. The pain comes from the magic cast on the blade, and as soon as he pulls it out, it will go away. The girl closes her eyes. Wendell pulls out the dagger and pours the healing elixir directly onto the wound. The heroine screams in pain, and suddenly, the wound closes before their eyes. The boy tosses the empty vial aside and shakes his head in amazement. It really is an amazing thing. Sam is slightly taken aback. If you knew the true value of the potion, you wouldn't talk about it so calmly. The hero tells the girl his name and offers to bring hot water and a towel, but she doesn't seem to hear him. She's probably still in shock. Wendell doesn't know what to do. At home, he would have called the police or his mother, but Darcia's soul is now at rest, and the girl won't see her anyway. Maybe the sisters can help. They're girls too, after all. Sam encourages the gentleman, but he thinks that even 3 lifetimes wouldn't be enough to understand women. He has no idea how to behave with someone who has just been nearly killed and abused. The hero makes another attempt to talk to her, and suddenly she begins to cry hysterically and throws herself into her savior's arms. Wendell is stunned. She's squeezing him too tightly. A little more and she'll either crush him or tear him apart with her sharp claws. Reassuring himself, the boy thinks, this is the least of the evils he's had to endure. For the first time in 3 lives, a woman is hugging him. Perhaps this would be the most peaceful death possible. A little later, the girl calms down and thanks her rescuers. Not only did they deal with the bandits, but they also spent an expensive potion on her. Wendell sits on her lap and says it's nothing. Sam informs her that they will soon arrive at the village. The boy thinks to himself, he's surprised that he decided to save this girl. She had suffered too long from the hellish pain of that dagger. Even for ghouls, known for their endurance, it was too much. The bandits wanted to sell her into slavery. People can be terrible. Wendell asks the girl who the ghouls are. Some kind of undead? Sam recalls that ghouls are higher than zombies and closer to vampires in nature. The girl confirms that they have common ancestors, but they are still slightly different. Like vampires, ghouls are descendants of 2 sisters, direct heirs of the goddess Vida. Ghouls rarely leave their territories. It has always been this way. But the girl was not careful enough and fell into the hands of these monsters. She cannot believe what they tried to do to her and believes that some people are no better than filthy orcs. Wendell looks at her and says that she seems special to him. It is quite possible that the bandits have been watching her for a long time. From the very beginning, they were after her. She should be more careful. Suddenly, the heroine blushes with embarrassment. The boy's words don't sound childish at all and make her heart beat faster, and his eyes evoke some strange feelings. Could it be that Wendell's vampire charisma is having such an effect on her? Embarrassed, the girl says that it is unlikely that the bandits were hunting her specifically, given her age. She needs to warn the other women in the village as soon as possible. Finally, the heroine reveals her name, Zadiris. She is 290 years old and is the elder of the ghoul village. The average lifespan of ghouls is about 300 years. This means that Zadiris' time will come very soon. The bandits probably had no idea how old she was. Other races know little about the peculiarities of ghouls. They mainly communicate among themselves. Female ghouls stop aging after reaching puberty, so everyone in the village knows each other's true age. Zadiris asks the hero for one favor, not to mention in the village how they found her screaming like a little girl. Wendell agrees. He had no intention of sharing the details of the raid with anyone. Suddenly, something approaches. Sam notices it, but the boy does not feel threatened. Finally, a crowd of huge creatures appears before the group. Zadiris says they are guys from her village, but they unexpectedly point their weapons at the heroes. One of the creatures says that they received a distress signal from Lady Wilda and asks why the elder brought the undead with her. Wendell is surprised. He is also facing ghouls, although they look more like demons. Zadiris explains that male and female ghouls are very different from each other. The elder orders them to lower their weapons. This squad saved her from the robbers. One of the ghouls does not believe it. Could a small child really be the leader of the squad? How could he have subjugated all these creatures? The largest ghoul in the group steps forward. It is Vigaro himself. Zadiris is outraged. How dare he leave the settlement without a leader? Vigaro considers it his duty to personally lead the squad to rescue her. The girl still considers this unforgivable. When the leader is outside the village, he is responsible for its safety. Vigar asks her not to talk nonsense. For him, protecting the leader is paramount. What would have happened if one of these adventurers had wounded her? He asks what to do with the boy. Zadiris suggests inviting him and the whole squad to the village as honored guests and throwing a feast. Vigar agrees. But didn't the chief herself forbid the Guyans from interacting with other races? She agrees, but she will make an exception for this boy. The man has no objection to the feast, but he thinks to himself about the hero. He notices the boy's empty gaze and cannot understand what he is thinking about. It doesn't seem like he's interested in anything that's going on. Vigar feels the desire to be his ally, and at the same time feels no ill will. Wendell says that they can leave right now if the ghouls are against the feast. The man assures him that no, they are happy to have guests and don't mind at all. He asks the boy's name and invites them to follow them. With a loud and menacing roar, Vigaro announces his return. and the ghouls, along with Wendell's squad, head to the village for a big feast. A crowd of ghoul men noisily celebrates the elders' rescue. They sit around a bonfire in the forest with the hero, dancing and having fun. Vigar offers the boy some incredibly delicious meat, but he refuses. He appreciates the kind gesture, but cannot accept the treat. This meat belongs to the very bandits who attacked Zediris. When he arrived in the ghoul village, Wendell did not expect it to be so similar to a human village. The man still tries to foist the meat on his savior, but the chief stands up for him. She explains to Vigaro, Wendell is a Dhampir. He needs blood, not meat. 3 girls appear next to the hero, the chief's students, and want to talk to the savior. Zediris explains to the boy, they are the youngest in the tribe. She has taken them under her wing. Wendell thinks they really do look young, although Zediris looks even younger. It's no surprise that a 290-year-old elder was mistaken for a young girl. One of the girls picks up the Dhampir, hugs him, and thanks him for saving them. The girls gush over the boy, calling him cute and admiring the color of his eyes and his lush hair. The hero thinks that the girls like him, and notes to himself that he seems to have found a peaceful place. Another villager asks the savior to touch her belly so that her future children will be as strong as he is. Vilda asks permission to name her child after Wendell. The hero is surprised. They look young, but they all already have children or are pregnant. A little later, in the cart, Darcia asks her son why he decided to spend the winter in this particular village. He explains that ghouls are not undead. They are descendants of the goddess Vida, just like vampires. But that's exactly why his mother is worried. Wendell can control the undead, but not the ghouls. How will they behave when they get hungry? At some point, her son may become food for them. But the hero is sure that everything will be fine, and that it is much safer than living among humans. Besides, in order to cross the mountain pass, they will have to wait for spring anyway. Zediris allowed the group to stay as long as they needed. She also knows a lot about magic, and Wendell wants to learn from her. Darcia is still unsure, and thinks it would be better to study at the Mages Guild in the Kingdom of Orbom. But one of the adventurer's spirits told the boy that in order to live in human territory, you need a guild card or ID. To get them, he will have to register with the guild, and then everyone will immediately find out about Wendell. The guild will receive data about his status, including the magic of death, which does not exist in this world, and the curse of God. In the worst case, the hero would once again become a test subject. Learning magic in the kingdom is dangerous. Darcia understands everything, but asks her son to run away at the slightest sign of danger. Wendell stands surrounded by ghoul girls. One of them asks about the hero's clothes. It looks like he's just wrapped himself in a piece of rag. The boy asks them not to discuss his outfit. He made it from what he found in the bandit's lair. He thought ghouls preferred to walk around naked, but it turns out they also care about their appearance. Against their backdrop, Wendell looks strange. Vilda offers to sew something for him. However, she only knows how to sew women's clothes, and the boy refuses. Another offers to give him a woman's hairstyle. Their conversation is interrupted by a large and powerful-looking woman named Bastia. She is returned from hunting and brought a goblin for dinner. She notices the boy and asks if he is a ghost. The woman approaches the hero and thanks him for saving her mother. At home, Bastia cuts up the prey and treats Wendell to a piece of meat. The hero bites into it with difficulty. The woman asks if he likes it. This strange purple-blue piece does not whet his appetite. It tastes too bland, although the smell is not so bad. He doesn't like it, but when Bastia asks, he says the meat is very tasty. The woman is surprised. What did he eat before if he likes what no one else here eats? Wendell is confused. It turns out that Bastia is telling the truth. The hero justifies himself. It's tastier than the frog legs he used to eat. The heroine comforts the boy. He is only a year old. He has plenty of time ahead of him to eat really delicious food. Dhampir asks why they eat goblins if the meat is so tasteless. The answer is simple. At this time of year, there is almost no other prey, and goblins are not seasonal creatures. They don't hibernate, so they can be hunted all year round. Plus, if you marinate the meat in gobgrass juice, it keeps for a long time. That's why the dish is called Gob Gob. Wendell has never heard this name before, and Bastia is surprised. She thought that people hunted goblins all the time. The boy explains that they do hunt them, but not for food. The woman finds this strange. She says she still needs to clean up, otherwise she will be late for training. Wendell thought she only cooked, and cleaning was someone else's job. It turns out that's not the case. All the household chores here are done by the person with the lowest status in the tribe. Dhampir is surprised. Bastia is one of the best warriors, and she is also the elder's daughter. But in the village, men make all the decisions. A child's fate is predetermined from birth. Women are required to study magic. Although Bastia is a good fighter, her magic is weak and she does not yet have children. She would like to become a mother. Then all her responsibilities would be lifted and she would have more time for training. She likes strong personalities. That's why she strives for strength, even though it doesn't come easily to her. She is already 25 years old and ghouls get pregnant. She is too old even to become an adventurer. Wendell looks at her intently and says that she is thinking too much. She is still young and very beautiful too. Bastia is glad to hear this. After a short pause, she tells the boy that he is too young to have seed. Wendell spits out all his food in surprise. The woman remembers that the boy possesses unknown magic. She asks if he has the power that would allow him to... The hero is very embarrassed and replies no. A little later, Wendell tells Adiris about this conversation. She apologizes, but the boy still finds it difficult to accept the age difference between him and Bastia. In response, the elder is surprised. How does the boy even know the meaning of the word seed? Wendell, realizing his mistake, asks her to forget about it. The girl thinks to herself, she shouldn't have forced her daughter into motherhood. Although it is not necessary, it is extremely difficult for the Gulyams to continue their lineage. And without proper attention to this issue, they risk dying out. The boy assumes that they do not know the fathers of their children, but Adiris says that this is not always the case. For example, Bastia knows her father. It is Vigaro. Usually, ghouls can no longer have children at Adiris' age. She recalls how she and Vigaro celebrated their victory over the kobolds. They drank so much that there was not a drop of alcohol left in the village. The morning after that binge, Adiris remembered the night she spent with Vigaro, and then Bastia appeared. The elder advises Wendell to be careful with alcohol and not to get drunk like they did. Finally, the story ends, and the girl suggests returning to her magic lessons. She wants to know what exactly he is capable of and asks about the spell he used against the bandits. The hero uses his magic absorption skill, and a glowing sphere appears before them. Adiris is amazed. How does he create a spell without saying a word? The boy explains that it is thanks to his skill of cancelling chants. It turns out that to do this, one must be at least a high-level mage, a genius, or a legendary demonic monster. Adiris doubts that she will be able to teach him anything at all. Wendell himself does not know where he got this skill from. Besides, he does not have the slightest idea about magic. He doesn't know what spells he knows. He just uses them. The elder considers the hero to be very strange. She thinks about death magic. Does this element really exist? She has never seen anything like it before. The main question is what she can teach Wendell. Since he possesses powers at such a level, it means that he is as confident in using non-elemental magic as he is in using the magic of death. He asks what non-elemental magic is, and Adiris is very surprised. This is basic knowledge, so she decides to start teaching him from there. She also asks how much mana he has at his disposal, as this will determine how long the training will take. The hero replies, about 100 million. Adiris is stunned with surprise. She herself only has 10,000. How can such a young child have such reserves? She doesn't know how much time she will spend with this boy, but she definitely won't regret it. No one can predict what he will achieve. Adiris decides to figure it all out during practice and suggests that he begin.